Hi, my name is Hunter Flournoy, and I have spent my entire life working with elders in traditions around the world, in the world's great mystical traditions. And that journey has changed everything in my life. And I wanted to share a little bit with you about what I've learned from my travels in the Andes with the elders of Peru, specifically my dear friend and elder, Jorge Delgado, who is an Aymara Indian and a wisdom keeper and a bridge person who works with me to bring people down from around the world down to Peru to tap into the deep way of being of the Andean people and to experience the power of these incredible places that have been used for thousands of years to help people connect with that deeper way of being. So, one of the first things that you'll notice if you ever go down to Peru is the extraordinary level of presence in the people there. When they're with you, it's as if they're with no one else and nothing else in all of creation. They're right there. And we make a lot of presence in spiritual circles these days in the US. We talk about letting go of the past, we talk about letting go of the future and being right here, right now. But we often talk about presence as if it is an act of attention. Just put your attention on the present. Don't focus on the past. Don't focus on the future. Put it here. We talk about it like it's an act of the mind and an act of will to keep ourselves right here. What I discovered being around the people of the Andes is that it's not an act of the mind or an act of the will, but it's an act of the whole being. And it's an act of relationship, that relationship is the key to presence. It's not some dry, mechanical, intellectual choice. It is a heartfelt and a whole being entering into relationship, and not just with the person in front of us, but cultivating the ability to be in relationship in every possible aspect of our lives. The second thing that you'll notice if you spend any time at all with the people of the Andes is not just that quality of presence, but there's a luminosity. There's a radiance in their eyes. There's a radiance that even pours through in their voices and in their physical presence, a lightness of being, a lightness which comes in really important if you're walking around at 13,000 feet. A feeling of deep connection to the earth and a feeling of lightfulness and joyfulness in just being here that you'll witness in the people there. Over the years that I've been taking groups down to Peru with my friend Jorge, he shared a little bit about what it is, what are the relational practices that help us to cultivate presence, and what are the practices with our minds, with our bodies, with our breath, with our hearts that cultivate that radiance and that shining quality that you see in people and in how they live and how they relate to each other. And I want to just share a little bit about what I've learned during my time visiting Peru with him. So, so first off, I want to say that relationship is really the only spiritual practice. Whatever title we give it, whether it's Buddhism or Christianity or shamanism or Hinduism, all of it is about cultivating our capacity to come into deep, whole being relationship with our world, to get out of our minds, to get out of the illusion of separation that many of us live in, and to connect deeply in every moment with everything that exists. In the Andean traditions, as in many indigenous traditions across the world, including the indigenous cultures of Europe, the fundamental relationship that we cultivate is our relationship with the earth itself and with the feeling of being supported by the earth. Most of us live our lives feeling so separate, so disconnected, struggling every day to make our lives work, efforting very hard without that deep and fundamental sense of connection that can come from a relationship with the earth. And so many of the practices that we do when we go down into the Andes are about feeling the earth under you. Say right now, to feel the support under you, under your feet on the floor, or your body on the cushion or the chair or the pillow or the floor, to breathe into that feeling of the support. And on every exhale, to give your weight to the earth, to stop trying to carry all of it on your own, but to feel that deep support beneath you. And as you breathe in, to feel the earth's support rise up inside you. The second relationship that we cultivate in the Andean traditions and many of the indigenous traditions that I've studied is a relationship with our own body, this precious animal that is made of the earth and has risen up from the earth, supported by the earth with all the love of the earth, that has been so loyal to us every moment of our lives. Your body has done everything, with perhaps a few exceptions, has done everything you've ever wanted it to do. It's served you tirelessly. It's stayed up late at night. It's worked hard. It's held its bladder, even when it really needed to not hold its bladder. The body has been in such extraordinary service to you, despite all of your judgments, despite all of your expectations, and beginning to forgive the body for not living up to those images of perfection, beginning to feel gratitude to the body and to cultivate that relationship is one of the foundational things we can do to cultivate presence. The third relationship that we can cultivate that is so powerful in cultivating authentic presence is our relationship with our own breath. Every moment of our life, all you have to do is open, and the breath rushes in and gives you life, brings you alive on the inside. And every exhale, you let go. And everything you don't need to carry in this moment, the breath frees you from. And then there's that lovely moment at the end of the exhale where we just rest, where we relax. And then the next breath comes in all on its own. So through these three fundamental relationships with the earth, with our body, and with the breath, we cultivate an experience of being supported. We cultivate an experience of how life is expressing through us in this moment. And we cultivate the experience of inspiration, literally through the breath. The next three relationships that we cultivate in the Andean traditions and in many of the indigenous traditions I've had a chance to be a part of are our familial relationships, familia, ayu, they say in the Andes, in Quechua. We cultivate the relationships with our ancestors, with all of those who lived and died so we could be here today, whose dreams, whose fears, whose joys, all of those we carry inside us, literally in our DNA, in our nervous systems, whether through nature or through nurture. We are our ancestors and they live through us. We're like the leading edge of the wave. And all of our ancestors lift us up, and we're that little bit of foam and light and water catching the light at the edge of the wave, and cultivating a relationship with our ancestors so we can feel their presence here with us now can keep us from having to feel so alone, which many of us do in our lives. The second part of familiar relationship we cultivate is, of course, our relationship with our beloveds now, all the people around us who love us into being every day, who we love. To really feel in this moment, as I sit here in this room with no other people around, that there is a circle of friends and lovers and family who believe in me and whose lives are different because I'm here. And to cultivate that moment-to-moment felt sense of presence. Of course, the next relationship we cultivate in our familiar relationships is our relationships with our descendants, those who are going to come after us. That means those people who haven't come into our lives yet, that will love us and that we will love. It means those people who will come after us and who will know who we were and who will hear the stories of our lives and whose lives will be different because we were here. And it means those people who will come long after us, who won't even know our names, but whose lives will be different because we were here. Sometimes I invite people to imagine those people out in the far distance, 7 generations down, and to imagine you could speak to them and that your whole life will speak to them. what you want to say, what you want your actions and your words and your thoughts today to say to those many, many generations, because their lives will be different because we were here. The third set of relationships that we cultivate in the Indian traditions and in many of the traditions of my elders is a relationship with the spirits that walk with us, that watch over us in our lives. And you don't have to believe in spirits as if they were invisible beings surrounding you, though for many of us, that's a lived reality. And for many of my elders, that's a deeply embodied truth. But you can also think of them as sort of the archetypal influences that inform our entire lives, part of the collective consciousness of human beings that rises up in every one of us and shapes our destiny. In the Andean traditions, three of the spirits that they talk about that we work on specifically cultivating relationship with are the Apuitu, which is the earth spirit, the land spirit that watched over you in the moment you were born and committed to be with you for your whole life. You could think of it as sort of a godfather. And in the Andean tradition, that would often be one of the most significant features of the land where you were born. So for myself, for example, I was born in Richmond, Virginia, and that would be my Apuitu would be Mary's Hill or Maymont. It's a beautiful hill that rises up in the center of the city of Richmond that's now been turned into a beautiful park. And just below it, my Pacarina, or the feminine spirit that would watch over me for my whole existence in this body, would be the Powhatan River. And that's usually seen as the spirit of the lake or the ocean or the waterfall or the creek, so whatever significant body of water is near where you were born. The third spirit that watches over us is our estrella, our star, our guiding star. You may have had your whole life the experience of looking up into the sky and one star in particular captures your attention. You just find yourself gazing up at it, maybe feeling longing, maybe feeling comfort or wonder. But it seems to be the center of the sky for you. When you look up, that could be your guiding star, the one that at the moment of your birth committed to watch over you during this lifetime. You know, there are all those beautiful moments in the cartoons where you see someone's looking up at the star and they're praying to it, or they're making wishes, or they're just feeling that connection, and that little star comes down and manifests as the blue fairy. You could think of that as the spirit of your guiding star. But in the Andean traditions, they understand that all of us have that deep relationship with the spirit of the earth where we're born, and the spirit of the waters where we're born, and the spirit of the fire, of the light, which is our guiding star where we're born, and of course, the breath that blows through us. The last set of relationships that I'll just mention today are our relationships not with the spirits that walk with us, but the spirits within us. And in the Andean traditions, they often express these spirits as the spirit of the jaguar, the spirit of the serpent, and the spirit of the condor. The spirit of the jaguar is that part of us. It's an expression of something in our own spirit of how we really are and how we live our lives every single day. Um, and you know, it is the part of ourself who shows up day after day, wakes up in the morning, does what has to be done to work, to feed the children, to feed the dogs, to take care of the house, to live our lives, to pay the taxes. That's the jaguar. And of course, for many of us, the jaguar carries a terrible burden. So the least we can do is be grateful to the part of ourselves who shows up to try to do all those things. The second spirit, which you could say is a part of our own spirit, is the spirit of the serpent. Um, and the serpent is like the seed inside us. It's all of the gifts that we were born with in this world. It's all of the potentials that we were born with, the potentials passed to us from our ancestors, from nature, or from nurture, the possibilities that arose from the culture that we were born into, or the spiritual traditions or the belief systems passed to us. But the serpent is that, you could say, it is the DNA of our being that may be awakened or not awakened. But there are many practices in the Andean traditions for awakening the spirit of the serpent inside us and coming into good relationship with those potentials. The last spirit I'll talk about is the spirit of the condor, which, if you imagine the condor flying out over the earth, the condor is the spirit of possibility in our lives, not the DNA in us, not what we were born with, but everything that's possible that we haven't even imagined. That's the spirit of the condor that every human being walks with and works with in their lives. The things that we haven't even imagined are possible, but are part of possibility for us. So I'm not going to go into all of the breath practices and body practices and ceremonial and spiritual practices that I could show you in Peru. But for now, let me just invite you to take a moment to feel the earth underneath you, and to feel its support and give your weight to the earth and breathe its support up into you. To take a moment to feel your own body, maybe to place your hands on it, to offer it your forgiveness for all the ways you may think it hasn't been there or lived up to your expectations. But take a moment to forgive it, a moment to ask it for its forgiveness, and to thank it, and to express your love to this beautiful body. And as you do that, of course, to feel your breath rushing through you, breathing in, letting go, resting for a moment, and letting the next breath come on its own. And just to be grateful for the inhale and the exhale and the pause at the end of the exhale. To close your eyes for a moment and think about your ancestors, all of those who have lived and died so you could be here today. Maybe to imagine them surrounding you. And if there's some ancestors you have trouble with, that's fine. Just for now, imagine the ones that you feel loved by and strengthened by, the ones that you need to be connected with right now. Take another breath. For all of the people in your life that love you now, imagine them surrounding you. Maybe they're in a circle in front of you. And you can see the respect and the love, the kindness in their eyes as they gaze into your eyes. Breathing that kindness in through your whole face, breathing it into your whole body. Feeling the love of the people that love you. And then take another few breaths for your descendants, the people who will come after you many, many years from now. Maybe who will come into your life later, who will come after you're gone, or will come long after even your name has disappeared into the wind. You might imagine them as a circle just behind the circle of those who love you now. You might see just the glint of their eyes, feel them there, and send your love out to them on the exhale. Take a moment to reflect on how you want to be in your life today to make a difference in their lives. You might take another couple of breaths just to remember the most beautiful place on the land near where you were born, if you know where that is, or maybe a beautiful place near where you live now. And feel the beauty of the place. Breathe in the beauty and the strength and the aliveness of that place. Or maybe there's a place you go to for strength and peace of mind. And remember that place. Breathe with it. You might take a few breaths to remember when you've been near the water, whereas rivers or oceans or lakes or waterfalls, maybe one near where you were born. and think of that place. And just breathe in the feeling that being in the presence of that living water, that beautiful sacred water gives you. And then maybe take a few moments to think about a star or a constellation in the sky that you just feel inspired or connected to. And to breathe with that star, feeling the wonder and the beauty of that starry night sky. You might take just a moment to breathe with the serpent, to breathe into all of the gifts that were passed to you in your life, all of the potentials, all of the strengths, all of the courage that were passed to you just by being born into the world. You might even say your name once, to say thank you, and your own name. Thank you, Hunter, for all the gifts you contain. You might take a few breaths now to connect with the jaguar, with that part of you that shows up day after day after day and does its very best to live your life. Thank you. And say your name again. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you for showing up. And then connect with the condor. Connect with that part of you that it contains possibilities you've never imagined. Close your eyes for a moment and feel that possibility in the space around you, in the sky above you. And say your name again. Thank you, Hunter. Thank you with your name for all the possibilities that I don't even understand yet. And notice the quality of presence in you right now, not as a dry act of attention, not as an act of will, but as a discovery of relationship, feeling how these relationships are calling you home to this moment, bringing you to life in this moment, setting you free in this moment. So that presence is not a choice you have to make, a thing you have to do. But presence is saying, yes, yes, I'm here. Yes, I feel you calling me into relationship. And you might notice how just sitting here, just coming into relationship, coming present, there's a radiance in you in this moment, pouring through you and into you from all creation. That in fact, light is the expression of relationship. It is the most fundamental expression of relationship. And that when we come into relationship, we become luminous. You know, some of the teachings I love most that Jorge has shared with me over the years are the teachings of the light and how we can reclaim the light in ourselves and in our lives. And he's talked with me a lot about the qualities of the light. And I can't pretend to speak them as well as he would, but just to share a little bit of my experience of the qualities of the light. And what happens when I come back into relationship with my own life, what I begin to experience. The first quality of the light that we work with when we travel through the Andes and we work within our lives is just the quality of awareness, of cultivating awareness in our lives, because awareness is the clarity that reveals the whole world just as it is. If you think about the fundamental qualities of light, one of the first ones to come to mind will be clarity. Light makes things clear. If you think about, if you ever sat up at night and looked out into the world and seen how everything is sort of shadowy or foggy or vague and things sort of blend together and you can't see what's what, as the sun rises, you get that beautiful quality of clarity. And as we cultivate relationships, all of these sacred relationships, we also cultivate that quality of awareness or clarity. The other quality of light, especially the light in the early morning, when the sun just first begins to rise, is that there's a freshness, an honesty, an innocence, a transparency to light itself. And as we cultivate honest, open, loving relationship, reciprocal relationship with all of these beings that I spoke of, all of these aspects of our own lives, we cultivate the quality of transparency, of honesty, of innocence in ourselves. So we meet each moment as if there was no moment before this one, totally present here, discovering. I remember one moment, one of my teachers said, "Would you like to see me make a cup levitate?" And we all said, "Yes, we'd love to see that." And so he had sitting on the table his cup. He said, "Okay, I'm going to use my shamanic powers to levitate the cup." And he picked up the cup just like this. And the miracle of it was that through just the incredible quality of his relationship with this moment, through the innocence and transparency of his own presence, when he lifted this cup, it was miraculous. He was using his hand. We do it every day, all the time. And yet, this single act of picking up a cup was magic. And we could feel it in that moment. And if we cultivate our relationships with the world, we cultivate that quality of the light, the innocence and transparency of the light. Of course, the next thing you notice when the sun is rising first thing in the morning is you notice the clarity of the light. You notice the innocence and transparency of the light. And then you notice the beauty of the light. The colors come alive. The edges of things are so clear. There's a beauty and a loveliness in creation. Light is beautiful. And as we cultivate these sacred relationships in our lives, we cultivate the beauty of the light in us, and our light becomes beautiful as well. The next quality of the light you might notice on the morning after sunrise is you start to feel warmth. First, you see how beautiful everything is, and then you feel the warmth of the sunlight pouring over you, pouring into your skin, into your eyes, into your mouth, pouring into every part of your body. And you feel that warmth. And that warmth is like forgiveness or loving kindness or compassion. And as we cultivate our relationships with all these parts of our own existence, we wake up the warmth inside, and our hearts become forgiving and kind and compassionate and merciful. The warmth wakes up inside. The fifth quality of the light, this is a word we don't use a whole lot. It's called the fulgence of the light. It's the flashiness of the light. It's like the resplendence of the light. If you imagine lightning, if you imagine the water glinting in the sunlight in a dancing stream, or the spray of the ocean, it has that quality of joyfulness and resplendence and flashing. And that is the quality of joyfulness and playfulness and creativity inside each of us. That as we cultivate sacred relationship with the world, we wake up the fulgence, the resplendence, the joy, the joyful quality of the light inside our own hearts. The sixth quality of the light is the luminosity, the radiance, the vitality. So after, if you imagine the sun has risen, you're feeling the warmth, you're feeling the light beginning to flash off of everything, and then you're just overwhelmed by the sheer radiance as the sun rises higher and higher. The radiance of the sun overwhelms us, and we begin to feel so alive, so vital in every part of our being, that as we cultivate these sacred relationships, we cultivate that radiance inside, that luminosity in our own hearts, in our own lives. And we go forth, and everyone in our life begins to feel that quality of radiance. The seventh quality of the light that I'll talk about today is illumination, which is as that radiance pours into us, it wakes us up. We start to feel ourselves connected to the light. The sense of being separate from that light, oh, there's the sun over there shining. That sense of separation goes away, and we feel the light pouring through us, into us, from the sun, through us, towards the sun, light filling all creation. And that gives the experience of illumination or awakening or union, where we feel ourselves one with absolutely everything. That is the transcendent quality of the light. Now, of course, we like to turn that into a state. We want to say, ah, I'm enlightened. Aha, I have enlightenment. We try to turn it into a thing. But enlightenment is not a noun. Enlightenment is the process of lightening up, of lighting up inside, and of allowing the light in. It's a process, and it's moment to moment, just like breathing. Ah, I am breathed. I never need to breathe again. No, breathing is something that we do in every moment, and it's effortless, and it's beautiful, and it continues for our entire existence. Enlightenment is like breathing. It's a process. The noun is not enlightenment. The noun is light. And we cultivate light through relationship. So here in the context of this little talk, I don't have time to go into, again, all of the different ways we can connect with these different properties of the light, using our breath, using our bodies, using our connections with each other, using ceremony. And of course, sitting where we are, it's a little harder to connect with the sacred places of the world, at least right now. But there are so many beautiful places where people have, through focused intent, through incredible artistry, created sacred sites and temples and shrines where we can reconnect with these sacred relationships, where we can cultivate these qualities of the light inside us. And we can do that anywhere on the sacred land. Every living thing is always trying to bring us back to light. But there's some places that have incredible power in doing these things. And the sacred sites of Peru are among the most powerful of these places that I've ever experienced. And my dear friend Jorge Delgado, who accompanies me and the groups that I bring to Peru, is a master at helping us cultivate these qualities inside each one of us, to live our lives as an expression of loving relationship, of aini, of munai, and without fear, to release the fear that keeps us trapped in feelings of separation and heaviness and struggle. So whether it is through working with me one-on-one on the phone or the web, whether it is through traveling with me to these amazing sacred sites, as I do every year, or if it is with the teachers and the relationships that are already in your life right now, I hope that you'll cultivate the powerful presence of deep relationship with the world, that you'll cultivate all of the relationships I've talked about. You'll cultivate all the qualities of light inside you because you came into this world to shine. Thank you so much. You can reach out to me at hunterflournoy.com or spiritjourneys.com or email me at info@spiritjourneys.com. I hope our paths cross and may your sun shine brightly. Que tu sol sea brillante.